started on time today. Welcome everyone to committee. I appreciate everyone being here. We are going to start with any requests for bill introductions. Now, not all at once. Everybody calm down. Okay, apparently they're not. Today we have our Director of Facilities and Project Management, Frank Burnham, but we're going to start, if you don't mind, with our reviser, Gordon Self, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair had asked me to just sort of set the table a little bit with regard to part of discussion today, and that kind of revolves around the building and responsibility and authority over the building itself and the facilities, et cetera. So I wanted to start with, and I'm going to, as I go through this briefly, I'm going to have Tom Day, Director of Legislative Administrative Services, talk a little bit too about his responsibilities vis-a-vis this, and then Frank will speak. According to statute, the KSA 753762 at SEEK, it lays out some of the responsibilities and duties with regard to this building. The Secretary of Administration, pursuant to statute, has the charge, care, management, and control of the State House and other state buildings, and any and all grounds, walks, parks, et cetera, pertaining to or used with any such building. So we start with that delegation of responsibility to the Secretary. In addition, the Secretary as well is responsible for maintenance, repair, and upkeep of the buildings, including the charge, care, management, and control of those buildings, including the State House. Now, when there is a specific provision that indicates, notwithstanding that, when it comes to changes and improvements in the state capitol, that is relative to space assigned to the legislature and staff offices and agencies, it is to be accomplished in accordance with instructions or approval of the Legislative Coordinating Council. And I'm sure all of you are aware the Legislative Coordinating Council is the body of made up of 8 legislators in leadership positions, that their primary responsibility is when you are not in session, but they also have some specific statutory assignments that are, go year round. In addition, 753764 delegates the cleaning, repair, alteration, and beautification of the buildings to the Secretary as well. KSA 753765 indicates that the Secretary assigns space and facilities in all properties, state properties in Shawnee County, except the state capitol, among other exceptions. 753765 little a indicates that assignment of space and facilities in the Capitol is made by the Legislative Coordinating Council. And the statute does require that permanent space be assigned to the governor, lieutenant governor, the legislature, and all staff offices and departments and agencies thereof. So that's kind of the basic authority with regard, to this building. So there is coordination between the Legislative Coordinating Council and the legislature and the Department of Administration with regard to the building. When it comes to assignment of space, typically the LCC does assign the space and then gives, within the context of legislative space, gives responsibility to leadership to make some specific assignments of space within the building. The cooperation that I indicated between the Secretary of Administration and the legislature works its way through the process, and primarily what ends up happening, with the exception of committee rooms and legislative offices, the responsibility of the first and second floors is with the secretary. With regard to floors 3, 4, and 5, it's with the legislature, and that is typically assigned or delegated to Tom Day, the Director of Legislative Administrative Services. So I will in a moment let him talk a little bit about that. There are obviously overlap, and coordination over the years is part of the process between the legislature and the Department of Administration. There was a question recently about activities within the building. Typically, activities in the common areas of the building are on first and second floor. I think Frank will be able to talk about that, because that's typically a responsibility of the executive branch. With regard to activities on the third, fourth, and fifth floor, say outside the old Supreme Court chamber, that is something that's been delegated to Mr. Day. As I indicated, it's important to have that coordination between the two because of the nature of this building and the fact that both executive branch and legislative branch share the building. Now, a question came up recently about who's in control of this room. This room has been assigned a committee room. During the time period that this committee meets, the chairperson is in control of this room. So if there are issues or concerns, there are decisions that would be made initially by the chairperson as to what to do. And we've had situations where there is a need for additional security or something like that, and the chairperson coordinates that with Mr. Day or the Highway Patrol.
I apologize for interrupting. We have a question. Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, so if, let's say at some point in the future, there's a Republican governor and the legislature is very unhappy with them, does the LCC have the authority to just say, well, we're going to take the whole building and we're kicking you out?
No. The statute says that permanent space or space shall be assigned to the governor. So the governor and the lieutenant governor and the legislature shall get some space. Now, the LCC has authority to determine where that will be. And so, for example, my agency was, on third and fourth floor, and then as a result of the renovation, we were assigned space in the basement. And so the answer would be no.
My quick question is, we've talked about floors 1, 2, 3, and 4. What does the ground level?
Well, the ground level is it's a sharing. There is legislative space down there. There's agencies down there. There are also legislators down there. But in addition, there are areas down there, common areas. And then lastly, the visitor center, there are aspects of the visitor center that it has been assigned the responsibility of the Historic Society. So that floor is really shared by those three entities.
All right, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
So Tom, I'm going to have Tom talk briefly about, with regard to the space that is assigned to the legislature, processes that are in place that Tom is responsible for.
sorry. Welcome to our committee, Tom Day. I'm just thinking about something completely different. I apologize, went off in the
Not a
wild blue
problem.
yonder.
Not a problem, Madam
Welcome to
Chair.
committee.
I'm Tom Day, Director of Legislative Administrative Services. Gordon laid it out pretty well as to all the different functions that take place in this building, as well as the control of the building. Like Gordon said, this is shared by the Highway Patrol, the Visitor Center with the Historical Society, the Director of the Secretary of Administration, and the Director of Facilities and Planning. We all share this as far as the responsibilities for the different aspects, whether it's cleaning, whether it's reserving the rooms, and all the committee rooms are permanently assigned for the bienniums for different committees to meet. And this is all worked out by the Legislative Coordinating Council, as well as the leadership as to the different rooms within the committee rooms within the building. There are 13 committee rooms that are all assigned different committees. That changed during COVID. We had to rearrange some of the spaces, and I was going to bring down a little grid that we use up in our office that shows every committee that's in every committee room and what times. That way we know what is open if someone requests a room for, let's say, a lunch for legislators. Whether it's the committee meeting or whether it's just an outside group that wants to talk to legislators, we assign those and reserve those for specific groups throughout the year and specifically and more often during the legislative session. We have a great relationship with the Department of Administration and Facilities Management to help coordinate all of the activities that go on, especially during the legislative session. But there are a lot of activities that go on outside of the legislative session. So we coordinate that with Frank and his staff throughout the year, and they do a great job. I'll tell you, the housekeeping crew in this building is unbelievable. They are short-staffed, but Frank has made it work. And he and his staff have made that work throughout the years. And of course, they're having the same problems that everybody has, and that's hiring people to be here working. I don't know how short he is right now within the State House staff, but at one time it was I think they were down to about 4 that they still had open. But they make it work. And they're here at 6 o'clock in the morning. They run 2 shifts. I don't want to steal your thunder, Frank, but Frank will be going over all of that as well. But they do a great job, and we work very well with the Highway Patrol as well to provide security throughout this building. And as Gordon said, you know, there are times when extra security is needed, depending on the hearing on a certain bill or whatever. And Highway Patrol they are on it. They provide us security within the room if we need it, inside the committee room, outside the committee room, and they are walking these halls every day. Madam Chair, if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or we could let Frank speak, and then however you want to do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Representative Bergeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What Mr. Self described to me sounds very cumbersome, especially if I'm an outside member of the public trying to reserve space. I wonder if it's possible for there to be sort of a central point for the public and folks wanting to reserve a room to contact so they don't have to navigate through whatever entity is responsible for reserving that space. Does that require a statutory change, or is that something that we can do administratively? Thank you.
Madam Chair, to answer the question, many people, when trying to reserve space within the Capitol, first of all, have no clue what they want. So to have a central area and then parse it out from there could be just as cumbersome as the way that we do it now. They may contact the Department of Administration first. and then they tell them to contact us, or vice versa. So it's a central repository or a central point of contact. You're still going to run into the same issues even after we know exactly what they want. It's something we could look at, but statutorily, and to change that, it is not a statutory change that needs to happen.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for
I'll be
being
here
here.
if there are any
Stick
questions
around.
after
We
Frank's.
always need you. Thank you. Now we have the Director of Facilities and Property Management, Frank Burnham. Thank you so much for being here. If you'll introduce yourself for the WebEx group.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Frank Burnham. I'm the Director of Facilities, and I am with the Department of Administration, and I report directly to the Secretary of Administration. And I just want to give you a little bit of background about our particular group, and then I believe you've all received or received electronically kind of my attempt to brag about my team and all that we do in a one-page document, which was really hard to do. Could have went on and on and on. But we are the facilities management group within the Department of Administration. We don't make the policies, we carry out the services and take care of what's set before us. We have roughly in the Department of Administration facilities group about 160-something FTEs. We have a lot of vacancies within that group, but we take care of all the buildings. Today I'm going to speak more specifically to the State House, which I think is more the subject of today's discussion. The first part I'd like to discuss is our Office of Central Services. We're located over in the Eisenhower building on the 12th floor. And we take all the application requests, we take work order requests, we take emergency calls. That's kind of our central hub for where the process starts. So specific to the question about event applications and what does that look like for the general public, the general public would either address through our website or a phone call. We've got a great person over there, Kathleen Williams, who's handled probably about any question you could imagine from the public and does a really good job of helping them navigate if they can't get through our webpage. But our site and our application form is a very simple form. We ask some very specific questions about location, intent, what kind of items you're going to need as far as chairs, easels, trash cans, and approximately how many people you're going to have. And then we try to work with them to make sure that area is going to be available. There is a small application fee. I think it's like $20. But this is simply a reservation for that space. We don't get into the subject matter, the content, or any of that issues. We're strictly there to set this up, break it down. But we do communicate with our partners in Legislative Administrative Services, the Highway Patrol. We send a notice out that goes out as a calendar invite for anybody that wants to be on that distribution list. And it just provides that high-level information of who the group is, the time, the location, and then a general idea of what the setup request is so that our team's prepared to make that setup. In addition, we do requests for legislative administrative services that may come strictly from Tom's area. We also help the State Historical Society with setups within their group. And then we do other things like lowering the flags and other things that are directed to our agency by the governor or by an executive order. I mentioned there at the bottom of that section, just for everybody's idea, there's 566 events. Event is a calendar entry of some kind of a request that came through Kathleen. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the volume that we see in a year. Like me to stop for questions, or?
Yes, Representative Riley. That's all right, you may ask. I've already interrupted him, so.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So as a lot of people know, I get here before 5:30 in the morning, and the magic has happened. Tables are up, chairs are up, they're in different directions, tables in different places. That's your crew. I am always impressed with your magic that your crew does. And then, of course, they have to take all those down, store them, everything at the end of the day. That's incredible. I just want to give you that. I think if anything, where my original request came from earlier was when that all happens and those 526 events happen, we are not seeing that for our office assistants to put that on our calendar, your calendar, of what's happening the next day, the rest of the week or whatever. And my request was, we would like to share or have you share that calendar so that we can put those events. We walk in the door, you know, and the magic has happened, people are setting up, people are doing stuff, but we don't know who they are, and a lot of them are important people to us, and we need to know that. So I would appreciate sharing that calendar. Thank you.
Are there any other questions while we've interrupted this kind gentleman? Representative Penn. Oh, sorry. Representative Orpeza. You know, Lindsay sits right, I'm sorry, Lindsay sits right where I can't see you, so I apologize. Okay.
Well, just a quick comment, if I may, to tag on to Representative Riley. You're exactly right, sir. We would appreciate that. Our OAs print off lots of paper to keep us informed of those things, and then we have to hand jam it in. So for efficiency and making sure that we cut down on cost, that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for coming. Agreed with the magic that happens here on a daily basis. So when the trash cans are set up, I fail to see like recycle options when we're having those big type of luncheons around. Is that a possibility? Does, to add that on to those areas so that's open? And then my second question would be, changing stations in the bathrooms. Is that your area for diaper changes in the men's and women's restrooms for options for people potentially? I know there's been representatives in the past who've had children to have that option, as well as I've only seen one lactation room. And just recently heard of someone having to pump in a bathroom, which I feel is very old school and really needs to be brought into the 2023. If those are options, I know space is limited, but at least finding something that's a little more private where you're not walking in and out on women who are breastfeeding.
Representative, I will jump in and tell you, there is a family restroom on the first floor. And so it locks. There's chairs there for anyone who wants to nurse a child as well as pump breast milk. So it's also a handicap accessible one. And I can tell you for a fact it's not always being used. So it's a very valuable resource. And there's one in the lactation room, so they could go to the other one as well. But I'll let you continue to answer the question. Thank you.
So I will address those items before I move on here. Yes, I certainly think there's a way that we can work with Tom's group to maybe filter that calendar so you're getting the events. That distribution includes every room reservation that goes through the Capitol. So I get on average 30, 40 emails a night during session. So maybe we could pare that down and make it more focused into what you guys are really wanting to see and work on a distribution list specific to that need. With regard to recycling, we have areas around the building. We don't intentionally set out recycling for each event. Recycling is becoming a bigger challenge in all of our buildings with the ability for people to pick it up and take care of it. So it's something I'll certainly continue to look at and see if we can do a better job in that area. Changing stations, thank you for pointing out the family restroom. That was something that we worked on just a few years ago to improve that area, make it a little more accommodating for nursing mothers or individuals that need to use that facility. The changing stations and restrooms in general in public spaces create a challenge for us because there's a liability issue there. And it's also the spaces sometimes don't lend themselves from accessibility and all the other requirements that come with adding some of those features. So it's something we can continue to look at, see what we can improve upon. But at the end of the day, we're limited in the amount of space that we have in the building. So it's not as easy as just adding spaces without giving something up. So just Those are my general comments.
Thank you.
Representative Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are changing stations right now in the visitor center bathrooms. I don't know if there's at least one in the men's restroom. I can't speak for the women's. Okay, so, but there are some changing stations there that, I mean, they're stone, so they're hard and cold, but they have the ability to use those though too. So there are at least some in the Capitol.
Does that give you more answers as well? And then I know that I have given my office to people on a regular basis. Just go up there, you can lock the door, I'm in a committee, you know, I can go somewhere else. So we do try to make accommodations as best we can. Oh, yes, Representative Carpenter.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the first floor, there's also, I think there's already a lactation room, actually. Yeah, okay, okay, all right, thanks.
And I will say too, we, again, managing these other buildings in the Capitol complex and even the new buildings that we're constructing now, those, we'll call them mental health rooms, nursing family rooms, those are being incorporated in. We understand there's a need and there's a lot of changes that are going on, and so we are incorporating those into our renovations in the other building. It's just the State House is a real challenge when it comes to space. Moving on to the second group, our housekeeping group, and I appreciate the words of Tom and recognition of the team. We have a phenomenal group. We currently have 19 allocated FTEs. As of this last week, we still have 4 vacancies in that area. It is an area where it's difficult to find people in that area for that wage, and most of our folks do work multiple jobs, and that's a common thing across our campus in that area. I know there was some work last year to try to bring that group up. I think that's an area where we can continue to look at those areas. We also operate the cage elevator, just out of the fact that we don't have an operator for the cage elevator, which basically takes one of my custodial people away from cleaning to run the cage elevator. So that might be another area that we could look at in the future. Can we put somebody on there? I mean, that's a great element.
I see someone's hands up. I think he's more than willing to help when he has free time. Was that not what you meant? I'm sorry.
It's lost in translation, Madam Chair. I was wondering what happened to my buddy that runs the cage. Where is she?
She retired.
Man,
the gentleman
that's a
that's
good
doing
one.
it today or has been doing it is on limited work. So he's helping us out in that area. But that's an area where we do need to address, maybe have somebody that's what their responsibility or that's what their full-time job would be, is to provide that experience for our visitors and everybody that.
Well, we lost a good one, Madam Chair. That was some great commentary that we had riding the KF.
Yeah, Ian was great, so.
You know, it is a shame that we don't have someone that can do it all the time. It was really, it's so historical. It's part of the magic of this building. So thank you for working on that.
Single out Laura Smith. I'm sure everybody here knows Laura. Laura is our housekeeping manager. She's been doing it for a long time and phenomenal, and I'm just convincing her to stay as long as she possibly will. And the same goes for John Warner, who's also a very long tenure and has great relationships here, and he's announced that he'll be retiring. So those are some challenges that I'll be faced with in this coming year. How do you fill those positions and cross-train? And this is the best time to do it during legislative session, so they really see what these people do and how flexible we need to be. So just again, kudos to those 2 individuals and their leadership. Again, we set up the areas for first, second floors, the areas that are controlled 3, 4, and 5 by legislative services, and then the State Historical Society space. As was said earlier, we work 2 shifts. We have a night shift that comes in, does a lot of the heavy cleaning, a lot of the floor cleaning. It sets those areas up so that it's ready. One other thing I would say is they literally break down and they reset multiple times throughout the day. So it's not, a lot of them are just not one-time sets. So you could see 5 or 6 events in one day. So again, then we also respond to those non-planned emergencies, those coffee spills and so forth, and just little things that pop up day to day. So again, I have a really great team, and I'm fortunate to be able to lead them. But all the credit goes to the team. And again, the 566 again was the number of events that happened in that area. Moving on to maintenance, again, I already commented John Warner. He has another full-time or a part-time staff that helps him and assists him. And then they rely on the assistance of our other construction and trades and plumbing groups that reside on our campus to come in and help and assist when needed. He also helps coordinate with on-call contractors that come in and do like the plaster work and repair and just some of the other general building upkeep, the cleaning of the exterior stairs. So there's a number of things that happen as soon as the session ends that are coordinated, and John and his team and facilities takes care of those needs. We also do significant setups for the electrical. We run the AV with that group. We bring in outside assistance for like the inauguration, the swearing-in ceremony, lighting technicians. So there's a constant management of all those different services that also fall within facilities in that group. That one had 860 requests, and you probably say, how can you have 860? That includes every single picture frame hang that I get a request for. And so this is that time of year when we get probably no less than 30 thus far, but it's something that we're accustomed to, and we can usually stack those up and we can come through and execute those. But we continue to encourage to have those services. Let us come in and help you put those items up on the wall so that we do it in the right fashion. And my team really gets out and enjoys providing those types of services. So I don't see that as a burden. And then moving on to the grounds, this is probably one of the most important groups this time of year. They're the ones that are in here at 5:30 in the morning that are starting to push the snow, throw down the salt. They're the ones that are staging the cones out here the night before the event. They're on the weather call with me. We're putting our plans together as to how we're going to respond to those weather events. And they also provide State House garage cleaning and other services. So again, they're a group that's a group of 10. We've got a couple vacancies in that area too, just like we do in all of our trades. We do not do the parking lots. We do have to source that out if we get more than 2 to 3 inches of accumulating snow. But they do all the sidewalks and they really do everything. And most days, I think when you come and you're driving downtown, you'll see that our campus looks a lot better than the surrounding area. And so again, credit to our team and their leadership. And I should also recognize Chris Simon's my deputy who manages a lot of these groups. So the final thing I would comment on as far as another role that we play is I also serve on the Capital Preservation Committee as an ex officio officer. That's a member of about 12 people on that committee. They're appointed by the different leaderships, the House and Senate, and the governor's office, and we meet annually to discuss exhibits, wall-hung items, sculptural elements, anything that pertains to putting anything of a permanent display or nature in the State House, or anything that may change the historic nature of the warehouse or the State House and the grounds. We have a subcommittee that meets that handles little small requests that come in, but that's a whole application process. We're very particular in how we go about considering what is an appropriate display or permanent display. Is the funding there? What's the resources? And then typically that is a privately raised funded event or expense, and then facilities just helps carry that out to make sure that it's executed and so forth. So that's kind of my full, here's what we do. So I'll stand for any questions.
Does anyone have a question? Yes, Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just an easy one. Did we not support the shoe shine people last year enough that they were willing to come back this year?
I don't have any specific information on that.
Mr. Day, if you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Riley, the shoe shine folks have been here this session. They are, that is not something, the Legislative Coordinating Council approved the shoe shine being here last year, and they have been here. I can't tell you their hours. They work when they want. And it's an apprenticeship type thing, so I can't tell you if they don't have enough people in that for this session, but I can tell you that they have been here in the last 3.5 weeks, at least Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. I don't know that they were here, have been here on Mondays, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are the days that I know they have been here.
Representative Stogstill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let you know, obviously, Representative Riley and I have the entire day covered because I like to work over here at night, and I usually leave around 11:30. And if you've never been over here in the late evening and listened to all the activity that's going on over here to keep this building just sparkling clean, it's just nothing short of phenomenal. And I hope we all take the time to thank those people every chance we get for the incredible job that they do. So, thank you.
Yes, Representative Wagner.
Yes, to Representative Riley's, actually, they're here today. I actually just saw them before I came into the committee. It's like $7 for Quick Shine, $11 for Classic, but today's the day.
Representative Penn.
Madam Chair, thank you. And for Ranking Member Stogstill, you took my comments right out of my mouth. I wanted to tell you, because I was in here at 11:30 last night. But I just want to let you know, your staff, your team, for the years that we've been up here, they are phenomenal. Back in the Army, I was an E4 at a point in time, and you get those details where you're the one doing the janitorial, custodial services, and people tend to look down at you, or you're not the bright and shiny, you're not the one in the suit and the tie before the cameras. But I'm going to tell you something about your staff. They've always engaged very professionally and very well and nice. They give a real good feeling to this building, and the whole team setting up events. No matter what the organization is coming through, they get a world-class set out and treatment. And it speaks very highly of your management style, your leadership style, and the people, the caliber of people that you have on your team. So please extend to them our warmest congratulations and thanks. I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so I sense a call to action. Everyone needs to make sure that they know who is cleaning their office and their name, as well as the people on that floor. So that they know that we are grateful for them, and they do a wonderful job, so thank you. Any other questions? Director Day, would you like to say something? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Robinson.
I don't know if this is the right group, but, okay, so I was trying to say, I don't know if this is the right group or right meeting, but who does like training for like drills in case there's an emergency? Like I wouldn't know where to go, and some places they provide that. Especially, I haven't necessarily been in a space where people can open and carry in a governmental building, but I live in an area where they carry. Like the night of the Chiefs game, it was just like New Year's Eve. What kind of scenario, or is this the right, I don't even know if this is the right place to ask that question or anything. Do y'all do drills for tornadoes or security purposes? I don't know.
Okay, someone has to do it.
What was your question again, Representative Robinson?
Oh, evacuation, emergency, what do we do as legislators? What do people in the building do? Thank you.
There are evacuation plan maps all throughout the building. Usually they're outside committee rooms. They're on some of the boards outside the House and Senate chambers. It just depends on the emergency, whether it's fire, whether it's tornado. Tornado, it's definitely to the basement, unless you really want to go outside during a tornado. And then fire evacuations are the closest doors to your offices and/or committee rooms, heading out the closest doors to get outside the building. Sometimes those are false alarms, but we never know when it's false and when it's not. And sometimes it's a 5-year-old kid that pulls the fire alarm, and mom and dad just weren't watching him when he did it. But that happened a couple of years ago. But there are evacuation plans they're posted all over the building.
Thank you. I just want to warn everyone, that age group are like ninjas. 1 minute, they're right next to you, and the next minute, we just happened to, my granddaughter took off at a chili supper at the school, and so she thought the kindergarten room looked like far more fun than the cafeteria. So that's, anyway, I understand that, so thank you.
And I would say anything, I know the Highway Patrol presented on Monday. I know that they do things for other state agencies and facilities. I think that's one of those things upon request. I don't know that there's a set timeline for when they provide active shooter training or those other type things. But
Okay.
it's out there, it exists. It's a matter of maybe following up with the patrol as to.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Representative Carpenter.
Just to follow up on the lactation room question, it's near 186 North, if anybody's out there looking for it or listening online, so. Okay, 187, yeah, so it's right next to Representative Raj's office, so instead of going into Raj's office, it's the door to the right, and it says lactation room on it.
All right. Representative Wagner.
To correct our esteemed Vice Chairman, it's actually 186. 187 North is my office, and so 186.
Oh, that could have been a very bad mistake. Okay. Well, that's a great way to finish your testimony. I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate your help. Thank you, Mr. Day, as well as Mr. Burnham. We appreciate that. It's great understanding, and I see that Mr. Day would like to speak again. Are you trying to defend yourself for trying to get people in Representative Wagner's office?
I wasn't trying that. Madam Chair, if I may make one last comment. Just another kudos to Frank's group. For those of you that are new and you have not been through a winter here yet in the State House with bad weather out, when it's inclement weather, we are on a phone call every time there is pending inclement weather. It's Frank's group, myself, emergency management, KDOT, the governor's office, to try and decide whether we're shutting down or not. There are many times that the executive branch will shut down, the legislature will not. In those cases, Frank's group of the maintenance on the grounds, they come out here and do their job even though the executive branch has shut down, and the grounds of this State House are clear. I mean, as clear as they can be depending on what type of weather we hit. But just another kudos to the maintenance and grounds crew that work the State House area throughout a winter storm. And some of you have already been through that, where we did not shut down and the executive branch did. But their snow crew was out here clearing the sidewalks, streets, the sidewalks, and making sure that people were safe walking into the building.
Well, I don't think we thank anybody enough in our lives yet here in the building. So I appreciate both of you and what you do and that you keep us safe. So thank you both for being here. I appreciate that. Just a couple more minutes here. Let's see if first, I'd like to ask about if anyone has any future agenda items that they would like to get on our committee. Okay, not all at once. We have next week's meetings are set up. We will have a closed session with the Highway Patrol to discuss some capital security, which we do not need everyone in the room, and it can only be on that. We cannot veer off of that subject. So that will be Monday. Wednesday, the meeting is on call of the chair. We're in kind of a stalled area. I'm visiting with the speaker today. A lot of what we're doing and a lot of things that we've suggested have most to do with IT. So we're trying to get, and I thank Representative Carpenter as Speaker Pro Tem. He's been proactive in getting all the groups together to make sure that we know where we're going from there, and then perhaps we can get some sort of physical data about it. But so right now, we won't be having a meeting next Wednesday, but we will on Monday, and it's a closed session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. All right? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being at this meeting. I'll call the meeting adjourned.